This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. The Herd, sponsored by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keep your car running newer, longer. What a game last night. One for the ages. The current NBA dynasty, for 3 hours, and specifically 30 minutes, was not the best basketball team in the world. Dynasties are hard to beat, right? My theories when it comes to sports, dynasties beat very good teams. Michael Jordan's Bulls beat a very good Utah Jazz team, and a very good Gary Payton, Sean Kemp Sonics team, and a very good Blazer team. And they beat a lot of very good Knicks teams and Pacer teams. Dynasties beat very good teams. But last night it was different. The very good team beat the dynasty. And there's a way to beat dynasties. Doesn't matter the sport. Doesn't matter if it's football. Doesn't matter if it's soccer. Doesn't matter if it's basketball. Dynasties win a lot, and they win big a lot, and they're often comfortable. The way to beat a dynasty is make them uncomfortable, because they so rarely are. Being a dynasty is like being rich. You got a pool guy and a landscaper guy, and you got that guy driving you there and that guy driving you. Yeah, very comfortable life. That's what a dynasty is. Houston lost the previous game by 41, trailed 12-0 to start this one. They called a timeout. I don't know what happened in that huddle, but I know this: for the next 2 hours, Houston played harder. Houston was angrier. Houston would not be denied. Houston was tougher. Houston was better on the glass. Houston was the better basketball team. Houston was the best basketball team in the world for the last 2 hours of that game last night. Stronger, tougher. There was a 4-minute blip when Steph Curry did what Steph Curry did. But even after that, Steph Curry, 11 points in 90 seconds, Oracle's exploding, the announcers going crazy. Even after all that, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, you look up and you're like, oh, Houston's still in this thing. Chris Paul hits a 3, chipping away, down to 8. Now it's 7, now it's 5, now it's 3, Yes, Golden State did what Golden State does, especially in the third quarter. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Oracle, announcers, crazy. And you looked up and you're like, oh, they're not down 17. They're not down 24. They're down 9. Oh, Chris Paul they're down 7. Listen, man. This is what the New York Giants did to the New England Patriots 18-0 team. That team had 3 games where they were uncomfortable all year. One of them in Week 13 against Baltimore and Ray Lewis made Tom Brady uncomfortable. Should have lost. Then in Week 17 in the Super Bowl, New York Giants did the same. Made Tom Brady uncomfortable. Took him out of his rhythm. Dynasties are usually in rhythm. They're more skilled. You got to make them uncomfortable. The Golden State Warriors are a high-performance sports car, and the Rockets took them off-roading last night. Took them up in the hills. Took them all over the bumps. Said, here we go. This is a wrestling match. Even inbounds plays. 16 turnovers for the Warriors. I mean, go look at that fourth quarter. 1 assist for Golden State. So frazzled they couldn't get the timeouts right. Where did Kevin Durant go? Took 2 awful shots. Steve Kerr probably should have called a timeout. They were confused. Even inbounds plays were totally disrupted. Now the question becomes, can Houston do this again? Can they play that hard? Can they play that tough? Can P.J. Tucker at 6'5" get 16 rebounds? Can Kevin Durant be that lost? Will Klay Thompson disappear? I don't know. I doubt it. But for 2 hours after that timeout down 12-0, the best basketball player team in the world was not the Golden State Warriors. Best basketball team in the world for 2 hours last night was Houston. And they did what you got to do to beat a dynasty. Take them off-road. Dynasties are more skilled. Dynasties are comfortable. They're like wealthy people. They got somebody doing this, very rarely uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable. I mean, Golden State was completely out of their comfort zone. I remember watching that Tom Brady Giants Super Bowl. First play of the game, Giants, 6-yard loss for New England. And I'm like, man, every single play New England is rushed, hurried, stopped. That's what I watched last night. It was effort. You go look at the box score in the fourth quarter. Oh, my God. That's not because Golden State doesn't have 4 Hall of Famers. That is a team that is completely emotionally and physically out of sorts. Not sure they can do it again, but for 2 hours, best team in the world was the Houston Rockets. Let me segue to this. When you're the best at anything, there's a lot of pressure, right? If you're the best dentist in a town, people talk about you. Oh, you got to get your teeth done at Dr. Williams. That guy is the best. There is a pressure to being great. LeBron James plays tonight. There's a pressure for him to perform. Now, a lot of people argue, especially at this time of the year when Kevin Durant's scoring a bunch of points, well, he is every bit LeBron. Some say he's better than LeBron. But Kevin Durant never faces the pressure that LeBron James does. So last night, KD has the ball, down 2, 12 seconds left. Here we go for who many of you call the best player in the world. Let's roll the tape, please.
Durant moves it across. Final seconds. Here's Thompson for the tie, and that will do it.
Now, I know everyone's going to question Steve Kerr. Should he have called a timeout? They've been in this situation plenty of times. What could you possibly draw up when you've got Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry on the floor?
Excuse me? Well, we're talking about Steve Kerr. That's funny because if LeBron James gave the ball up, would you be blaming Ty Lue or David Blatt or Mike Brown or Eric Spoelstra? The announcers. It's Steve Kerr. I mean, what is Steve Kerr doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. That coach who doesn't actually play anymore and is in his 40s, maybe 50s, it's his fault. Immediately, crickets about Kevin Durant, who had a 6'5" guy switch on him. Let me give you a couple of facts last night. Kevin Durant didn't make a shot in the final 7 minutes and 43 seconds. Kevin Durant didn't take a shot in the final 3 minutes and 47 seconds. You would be crushing LeBron. Everybody would be crushing him. The first thing the announcer said, well, it's Steve Kerr's fault. This morning, I go on the internet, Steve Kerr overrated. Steve Kerr, gotta call a timeout. I can't believe what Steve Kerr did. By the way, I'm looking at these game 4 with and without Steph Curry. Without Steph Curry, the Warriors were awful last night. Look at those numbers. Field goal percentage, 46% they shot with Steph Curry. Without him, 21%. You know who the most valuable guy on this team is, right? I'm not saying the best. You know who the most valuable is. We demand that LeBron not only be the best, that he coach on the floor, that he always has the right instincts, and that it's not about the coach, and that when he's on the floor, they have to be great. Nobody's talking about this. Look at the numbers last night. He didn't make a shot for the last almost 8 minutes. He didn't take a shot for the last almost 4 minutes. And we're talking about Steve Kerr. That is the pressure of being the best dentist in town, the best lawyer in town, the most respected teacher in town, the best NBA player, the best quarterback. We put everything on your shoulders. Everything is piled on your shoulders. Kevin Durant last night had a 6'5" guy switch on him. And 7-foot Kevin Durant, hey, Klay Thompson, you take it. I'm going to go over here and watch the rest of the game on my flat screen. What? Should be the lead story today. Or at least it would be the lead story of tonight. If tonight LeBron doesn't score in the last 7:43, does not take a shot in the last 3:47, and has a 6'5" player, let's say Jaylen Brown, switch on him, trailing by 2, has the ball, 12 seconds left, and LeBron passes it off to Kyle Korver, we will destroy LeBron. I won't be able to talk about anything else. And this morning, crickets on Kevin Durant. The gap between the best player in the world, LeBron, and the second best player in the world, Kevin Durant, isn't all about basketball. It's about the expectations and the pressures we put on the king. Coming up next, I think analytics matter. I prefer manalytics over analytics. But analytics have gotten rid of the dumb guy in sports, and that part I love. Two things last night you gotta see, and it's why I love both these guys. That's coming up next. Just to show you how hard it is to beat dynasties and why they generally, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama wins it in the final play. They're never dead till they're dead. They find ways to win. They got coaches, players, depth players. Houston totally controlled the game last night except for two brief spurts. A 12-0 start and that 4.5 minutes of Steph Curry, 3-3-3-3-3-3-3. Outside of that, Houston really controlled the game, was the better team. It had 9 blocks to 3. They were out hustling, working harder. Everything was difficult. Golden State had their worst fourth quarter since Kevin Durant joined the team. They were awful. And Golden State still had the ball with 10 seconds left with all those shooters with a chance to win the game. It is hard to beat dynasties. Golden State outplayed them for 80% of the game and still almost lost and didn't have the ball late. Daryl Morey was on my radio show Friday. I wasn't on TV, and he talked about facing Golden State and how difficult it is to figure out ways to beat them not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in 2 weeks.
One thing that was interesting about our Game 1 loss is everyone's like, you can't beat the Warriors this way. Well, newsflash, you can't beat the Warriors maybe anyway. There's no good way to do it. The question we face is, what is our best plan to give us the best chance? And that's what we're doing. But it's not like we go in saying, oh, we do X, this is going to work.
By the way, the chances are now Houston will never have a quarter like that again in the series. The Warriors are now on high alert. Kevin Durant's going to hear what a bum he is. He's going to come out inspired. P.J. Tucker probably doesn't get 16 rebounds. Chris Paul can't possibly be that good for that long of a stretch, can he? There's a lot of different things involved, but I want to shift gears to this. I have been somebody that embraces analytics, but I also like my manalytics. Professional sports are played by big, strong alpha men. That's what they're played by. Right now, currently, mostly GMs, coaches, players, execs, and there's this thing called analytics. And analytics are a lot of averages and a lot of math, and I like that. But manalytics matter too. But what I love about analytics the most is they take the dumb guys out of the sport argument. A lot of dumb guys. Yeah, this guy scored 30. He's the best. James Harden scored 30. Great game. No, it wasn't a great game for James Harden. The Rockets literally took the ball out of his hands in the second half and said, James, go over there. We're better when Chris Paul has the ball in his hands. Think I'm wrong? Look at these numbers. Here are the Rockets last night with James Harden on the floor. And without him on the floor, they were weak with him on the floor. They were better with him off the floor. They took the ball out of his hands. Dumb guy at a sports bar, he had 30. He was a man. He was invisible in the second half. Okay, don't tell me guy drops 30, he's great. How many shots? When did he get them? One of these guys that's a front runner gets them all in the first half, not in the second half. Kevin Durant last night, invisible, 7 minutes. Analytics takes dumb guys out of sports. Instead of just saying, well, Melo scored 29. Well, what did he give up on the other end? If you just look at the box score last night, Harden had 30, great game. Invisible. They took the ball away from him. Chris Paul took over, and the Rockets played better. This is what I've said about Ben Simmons. Everybody says Ben Simmons can't shoot. Okay, let's go to the smart guy argument. The Philadelphia 76ers are better at 19 crucial categories when Ben Simmons is on the floor. I'll give you 6, not to confuse you. Points, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, fast break, points in the paint. 19 of the 20 offensive categories we found, they were better in when Ben Simmons was on the floor. By the way, 2 of them are shooting. That's funny because he can't shoot. Oh, you mean he gets open looks for everybody else? They were better defensively in virtually every category with Ben Simmons. Dumb guy. Can't hit a jumper. He's no good. They're better significantly as a team shooting the ball when Ben Simmons is on the floor. Analytics take out the simplistic guy dropped 30, he's great. They tell you what you gave up. Is the team pass better with you? Do they defend better with you? Are they less selfish with or without you? Okay, James Harden last night, analytically, weak. Guy 4 beers in at a sports bar, dropped 30, was awesome. And the Rockets took the ball out of his hands, gave it to Chris Paul. That is what happened last night. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
So, Colin, a couple weeks ago, former Cowboys tight end Jason Witten said he thought Dez Bryant would end up with the Packers. He thought it'd be a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Problem is, Aaron Rodgers doesn't really see it that way. Here's what Aaron Rodgers said yesterday.
Well, we like young receivers, so I'm assuming that's the way they're going to keep going. I don't know why you'd cut Jordy and bring in Dez, but he's a talented player. He's going to end up somewhere. If he ends up here, we'll obviously welcome him with open arms and get him up to speed as quick as possible.
So, yeah, the interesting thing to me was he walked it back. He said, I don't think so, but I would love him. But notice how he found a way to bring up Jordy Nelson when he really didn't have to.
Let me defend Aaron Rodgers here. In the last week, Tom Brady is questioning everything New England does. Big Ben's questioning the Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers takes a shot at Green Bay. Marginal NBA players for the last 10 years can be disruptive to a franchise. NFL star quarterbacks, do you see how bad Green Bay was without Aaron Rodgers? Okay, leadership is talking. Leadership is making you uncomfortable. Leadership is stating your case. Aaron Rodgers, that's what a leader does. That's why I say Andrew Luck. Stop pretending you're happy with Bruce Arians. Stop pretending you're happy with Ryan Grigson. Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and John Snyder have let that offensive line go to crap. Say something. Star quarterbacks are the leaders of $4 billion franchises. State your opinion. Aaron Rodgers is saying, I don't know why we got rid of Jordy Nelson. Big Ben is saying, why'd you draft a quarterback? I'm here for 4 years. Get another linebacker. Tom Brady's saying, it's not just the Patriot way, it's the Tom Brady way. Applause for quarterbacks finally having an opinion. They should. That's what leaders do.
Well, hold on the Roethlisberger part of that.
All right.
So a few weeks ago, Roethlisberger said it wasn't his job to mentor their rookie quarterback, Mason Rudolph. Well, now that OTAs started in Pittsburgh, he is taking those comments back a little bit, and he's now mentoring the rookie quarterback. Here's what he said.
I think people took some things that I said into a context that I was going to be mean or rude or whatever, and that was not it at all. If you listen to the whole conversation, that was said in jest and laughing and having fun. So I've never been the type to just be rude or mean to other quarterbacks. So you can ask, Jones, and I've had a lot of quarterbacks through here that have been younger than me that I've tried to help any way that I can. So, I'll continue to do that.
Do you believe that Big Ben was joking and is going to mentor Mason Rudolph?
No, I believe it's not the responsibility of a quarterback with a 12-year shelf life to have to groom the next guy. Tom Brady's like, get Garoppolo out of here. He's not only good, he's good looking. Get him out of town. I have no problem with that. If my career only lasted 12 years, you think I'd be helping Gottlieb? No way. I'd be throwing him under the bus every segment. But my career lasts 40 years, so I want to help my friends. But if it lasted 12 years, you know what Wall Street would be like if you had 12 years to make your money? It would be a hate fest.
Pretty vicious.
If it's 60 years, you can help people.
Finally, new Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator Norv Turner had some very high praise and high expectations for Cam Newton.
All right.
According to Norv Turner, he believes Cam Newton's passing percentage should be in the high 60s.
It should be.
This is his quote. I see Cam as a guy that can be in the mid to high 60s in completion percentage. To me, Cam is one of the 3 or 4, if not the hardest guys to defend in the league. Coaches spend extra time when they play against Cam Newton because he can beat you in so many different ways. Now, I know what your next question is going to be. Career completion percentage, 58.5.
Yeah.
In 2016, it was under 53%.
Pathetic.
Do you think Norv Turner can turn Cam Newton into a mid-60s completion percentage
Listen, man,
guy?
you give a guy an MVP, you give him a lot of money, players and people don't listen. Once a doctor makes his big money and 60 years old, he's not going to listen to the young doctor. Cam Newton should be completing 65%. 53% is embarrassing. Norv Turner, if he would have inherited Cam as a rookie, I would buy it. I think Cam's set in his ways, does what he does. I think he can elevate it, but there's no excuse for Cam completing 53% of his throws.
He could just call a bunch of screen passes.
That's Tebow-esque. It's not good enough. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Let's bring on my friend, who I am helping, Doug Gottlieb, the Duggar. FS1, personality, Fox Sports Radio. Here's what's funny about basketball. And this is actually funny about all sports. If, let's say, Doug, you had a show that you really didn't like. You just went out and you drove home to your lovely family, and you're like, I didn't have a very good show. I could, with virtual guarantee, that your next day you'd have your best show ever. You wouldn't sleep right. You'd think about it all day. But in sports, we tend to think what I saw last night is going to be the next night. So Golden State's going to hear for 2 days. Soft, embarrassing. My gut feeling is Houston found something, but I'm not sure they can duplicate that.
No, it's going to be very difficult. Remember, they only played 7 guys the entire game. And Golden State was playing without Andre Iguodala.
Who's valuable?
Incredibly valuable. If not, listen, Andre Iguodala is not a particularly good shooter. And so when I say that they were playing 3-on-5 offensively, because you have 2 non-shooters. Draymond Green won't look at the basket as far as shooting jump shots anymore. He didn't even make a dunk last night. He has lost all of his offensive confidence as a scorer, not as a facilitator. So they're playing 3-on-5, and when Steph comes off the floor, they're playing 2-on-5. The court really shrinks, and Kevin Durant has to be having flashbacks of, hey, it's like playing with Andre Robertson. Everywhere I go, there's a second guy there. It's increasingly difficult.
Yes.
The difference is when Iguodala's on the floor, he knows exactly where he's supposed to be. He understands perfect spacing. He plays in an area below the backboard at times called the ghost position, to where if you leave him, you just throw it up to the rim, he can get an alley-oop. Last night they had Jordan Bell, they had Kayvon Looney. Those young kids were just lost as to where am I supposed to be.
Yeah.
And even Sean Livingston on the floor, who's a non-shooter, kind of in the way, so that Steph couldn't be Steph, KD couldn't be KD, and of course, I don't know what happened to Klay Thompson. He's on Ariza Island, I guess, because that was the worst execution, the worst spacing, the worst shot selection I have seen from the Warriors. They got a couple of defensive stops at the right times and somehow still had a shot to win the game.
That's what's remarkable to me. Doug, if I give you the numbers, outside of that 12-0 start and that 4 minutes of Steph being amazing, I felt like Houston was just a little, even on inbounds plays.
Even the 12-0 start, which everybody's like, wow, 12-0 start, they should have been up 20-0, 25-2, because Houston was just not making shots out of the gate. But Golden State, in their Golden State sort of way, they throw the ball away, they miss a layup here, they miss a shot there. You're right. Now, you're right in that Houston probably outplayed them if you took away the start and you took away Steph just going nuts.
in
the middle of the third quarter.
Absurd.
He was 1 of 11 after his after his big shimmy, and they called timeout.
Yeah.
He couldn't make a shot. On the other hand, that's also what Golden State does. Like, they're just okay, and then all of a sudden they hit you at 3, and you look up, you're like, wait. We were even with them, and now they were down 12 points, 82-70, I think. So you're right, only that is more par for the course for Golden State.
Well, it is interesting. If I think, and this is the way basketball works, I've seen 4 Celtic Cav games. I'm not sure what the true game is.
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay, I've seen 4 games with Houston Golden State. Here's what I feel the true game is. If you go back to game 1, Golden State was better, a little more skilled, and just made those tough shots because you can't defend KD. Of the 4 Houston Golden State games, game 1 feels like what it is. Both wanted to win. There was urgency, and Golden State was just 7% better.
That's totally fair. On the other hand, series sometimes hinge on, can a team steal a game? And I felt like Houston stole one last night.
Yeah.
Yes, we both agree for a good portion of the game they were the better team, but still that was thievery, right? That was Steph misses a dead layup, and then Draymond misses 1 or 2 free throws. Heck, Steph was wide open on that last play with 0.5 seconds to go.
He was.
Look, there's a bunch of things to get to. I still don't. Somebody's going to have to stop and explain to me why Chris Paul made the second free throw. The math to it. There's 0.5 seconds to go in the game. 0.5. Okay. All he has to do, he misses the first free throw. If he makes both, it's 4 points. It doesn't matter. But he misses the first free throw. So it's a 2-point game. And obviously, if you make it, it's a 3-point game. And the math would tell you, okay, that takes losing out of the equation. But you can't go length of the floor. And even if you get the rebound and call a timeout, you're going to lose time. It made no sense. As good as Houston played defensively. And look, they really mugged it up. They just grabbed and
Yes,
held.
they did.
And the officials swallowed the whistles for the most part.
Which they do in the conference finals and finals.
And that's the way to beat Golden State. That's the way that Oklahoma City beat Golden State in the regular season. Everyone knows if you can be super physical with Steph, sometimes he'll settle. Same thing with Kevin Durant. He took a turnaround jump shot from the post, which hit the side of the backboard.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. But they mugged it up. And the officials swallowed the whistles, and Golden State collapsed. But it doesn't make any sense for Chris Paul to make that second free throw.
Okay, so I want to go to the final possession because in my opening rant, one of the things I said is if LeBron went 740 without making a shot tonight, final 740, and 350 without taking a shot, and then on the final play with 12 seconds left, got 6'5" Jaylen Brown to switch over him, which KD did with P.J. Tucker, and passed it off, we would spend 3 hours destroying him. Here's the final play. Let's watch it sound up, and I want you to comment. Go ahead.
Rebound Green. Durant moves it across. Final seconds. Here's Thompson for the tie, and that will do it.
Now, I know everyone's going to question Steve Kerr. Should he have called a timeout? They've been in this situation plenty of times. What could you possibly draw up when you've got Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry on the floor?
Okay, first of all, should Steve Kerr have called the timeout?
I mean, I don't know if he should run something or call a timeout, but that wasn't good enough.
That's right.
Right? So I don't care if you call a timeout, but you mean to tell me you didn't have a plan in place for if Houston misses a shot? Remember, Golden State got to stop. They did what they're supposed to do. They got to stop. It's 2 points. There has to be something they just kind of went into flow, which just go play. Draymond Green set a high ball screen. I do think that KD thought he saw something and probably actually he passing the ball to Klay Thompson in the corner is not a bad decision.
Right.
It's just he gave it to him actually a tinge too quick because Klay didn't have his feet set. And then there's Klay's there, KD's there. And Steph's right there. There's no spacing.
But let me defend Kerr on this. This is not a young team like Boston. Or Utah with Donovan Mitchell. This is a veteran team. Could I make the argument for Kerr is, I got KD in this league 10 years. These are high-functioning, high-IQ players. I'm on the sidelines. I'm like, fellas, this is why we get along. I let you play.
Fair, with the exception of this. This is what their offense had looked like the entire fourth quarter.
Okay.
Right? So in the grand scheme of things, yeah, you got Kevin Durant, you got Steph Curry. Neither are really point guards, but they can both initiate. You just kind of spread them out and let them play. The problem is they hadn't seemed to figure out anything with this Houston defense in the fourth quarter. Now, going back to what you said about Kevin Durant, right, where we would be killing LeBron James if he did the same thing. That's essentially what Chris Broussard said on First Things First earlier today. Take a listen to this.
Okay, let me hear that.
10 seconds left. They're down 2. Kevin Durant's coming down the court. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is easy money. Durant's going to take a mid-range jumper because he's been killing them all series with that. He gets to about 17 feet on the wing. All he has to do is pull up. We've been talking about what? Nobody's tall enough to guard him. Shooting, exactly. And he gives it up. If LeBron James did that, that would be the story. That would be the number one lead today would be why didn't LeBron shoot?
That's preaching to the choir.
Okay, now let's go in fairness. When they lost to Indiana, in a couple rounds ago in the playoffs, LeBron was bad in the fourth quarter. A -9, only 4 points. I don't believe you went on a rant or a tangent about how bad LeBron was. When they lost to Boston in Game 1. He didn't score a point in the fourth quarter, didn't make a shot in the fourth quarter. He was a -14. In Game 1 to Toronto, when they did win, he was 3 of 11 in the fourth quarter. So there have been moments to which you haven't called him out. There have been. He's been bad. We've said, hey, his teammates need to pick him up because he carries them the first 3 quarters. I'll say this. Kevin Durant was awful in the fourth quarter.
He was.
Embarrassingly bad.
For the second best player in the world.
Yeah, I think I personally think right now, skill set wise, he's the best player in the world.
Okay.
Last night he was not. Shot an air ball from 3, which was contested. Shot a turnaround jump shot, hit the backboard, and made a bad decision on that last play. On the other hand, the great thing is there are more games to be played. I think he was thinking too much about those 2 previous possessions and that they were bad shots and he was forcing them. He made up his mind before he ever even looked at it. He never looked at the basket. We're talking about P.J. Tucker. If you watch him come off that screen, he didn't even look at the basket. He had made it up in his mind that he was going to give it up and maybe get it back if somebody else helped off him. It was an awful decision, And we'll see if he reacts better or worse, and this becomes a pattern of behavior the rest of the series.
Okay, I'm going to blow your mind on something. Well, I'm going to try to. I have a theory on something, and I want to throw it to you because you're a basketball player and you got a lot of connections. But I have a theory on something which we're seeing not only from all NBA guys, but superstar NBA players, all of them. Not one of them, all of them. And we'll talk about that coming up with Doug Gottlieb. Don't be that guy in the room with a long, sloppy-looking untucked shirt. Untuckit.com, code HERD, 20% off. Fall arrivals are in. Doug Gottlieb joining me on the show today on the Herd. All right, I'm going to throw a theory at you, Doug.
Okay,
it used to be this was the world of basketball. You went to high school, and the high school coach would bark at you. He was tough. He'd been there for 35 years, and that high school basketball coach was the beginning and the end of that highway. You didn't talk back. Then you went to college, and you stayed for your college coach for 3 or 4 years. And he ran the show. And then you went to the NBA, and you were only making, $800,000 a year. A lot of times, coaches not making that much. They told you what you do. Okay, it was a different culture. The culture now is you don't have a high school basketball coach you listen to. You have an AAU coach. He's kissing your butt. Then you go to college, and John Calipari, Mike Krzyzewski, just praying you stay for a second year. They kiss your butt. Then you go into the NBA, and now the players make so much. It's a players' league. If the player doesn't like the head coach of the NBA, coach is gone. Players now are softer because of the culture of basketball over the last 20 years. This is what's interesting. James Harden, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Hall of Fame players, all awful last night. We regularly see the greatest players in the world lose utter confidence on a shot, lose utter confidence in their games. Kobe didn't. Kobe never stopped shooting, could go for 40. He'd keep shooting. MJ didn't. Isaiah Thomas didn't. A lot of our players now, Doug, the great ones, they're soft. You can get into their head. Kevin Durant literally has to recalibrate. He fell apart. Is my theory crazy?
No, it's not. I mean, I think it's also, you have to add in a couple other factors. Okay, the way the game's officiated for most of the season allows them to be much more finesseful. Yeah. Of course, last night looked like the 90s basketball that we grew up with, right? Yeah. Grab, hold, city, freedom of movement. Let's just the toughest man wins. Yeah. And so they have a tough time adjusting to that mentally. Okay. I also think that players, honestly, are more worldly and more intelligent. These guys are really, really bright. Kevin Durant and LeBron James are super, super bright outside of the world of basketball. And it's one of the costs of intelligence is you think about things too much. Yeah, you overthink. Can't think. You think Joe Crispin beat me out to make the Lakers one year. And he used to have an expression, played at Penn State, played for the Lakers and the Suns, and played forever overseas, a college coach now in Jersey. And he said, you think, you stink. And it's true. If you think, you stink. And I think that's what you're getting at, is these guys have, for their entire lives, everyone bows down and we make it easy for them. Whereas, I don't think we all want a 90s coach or 80s coach with, remember those bike coaching shorts?
Yeah, and they're yelling and screaming.
And then, like a butterfly collar like my dad used to, and a whistle. But it toughens you up. Freshmen used to sit, right? They used to be, rookies used to never play in the playoffs. Right. You used to have to earn things. And now, hey, if things are tough, let's go get a dream team together and let's just go beat people.
And you see, and I do think it affects even star players where they lose confidence because they face a crisis they haven't coming up through AAU, high school basketball in the 70s and college coaching. Now, shift to this. Here's what made me happy last night. I love Chris Paul. It's not flashy, not vertical, not dynamic, not a 3-star. And I understand in basketball, Westbrook's way more fun to watch. I get it. And I get John Wall is way faster and way more fun to watch. But, man, Chris Paul was great last night. Chris Paul was great last night. Made me very happy because everybody's always banging on Chris Paul. I loved it. Did you?
I did, too. I think there's interesting false narratives. And this is where I get to the Kevin Durant choked last night, but that doesn't necessarily make him a choker. Right. Chris Paul had a historic implosion against the Oklahoma City Thunder one year when he was with the Clippers. Yeah. But he also had an incredible Game 7 against the Spurs 4 seasons ago, in which he hit the game winner and eliminated the Spurs from the playoffs. He also, last year, Game 6 on the road, they dominate. They beat the Utah Jazz in Salt Lake to force a Game 7. Now, they lost in Game 7, but the idea that he's a choker, that he could never get out of the second round in New Orleans in Oklahoma City when the Hornets moved or in with the Clippers. It's a false narrative. And last night it showed that when you give him the opportunity and you give him the space, even with the Warriors who they're longer than him, they sit on his right hand because he always wants to go right, he still found a way. He made some impossible shots, an impossible bowling pass where he throws it all the way across the court to Trevor Ariza. And I think he showed that it is a false narrative that he's been a choker. More times than not, I would prefer Chris Paul to be on my team and have the ball in his hands at the end of a game than the other way around.
Yeah, and by the way, I get why people fall in love with John Wall and Westbrook. I get it. I mean, they're vertical, they're fast, they finish, they're bang, bang, bang fireworks show.
Or even Steph Curry.
Yes, it's more fun. Steph Curry's more fun to watch than Chris Paul's at running back, and you look up, he's got 132 yards, never had a carry over 12. And you're just like, man, that guy ran for 100. And all of a sudden, Ezekiel Elliott busts a 40-yarder, and it's like, oh, yeah. Todd Gurley gives you 5 yards to carry. He's not that flashy, but there's something to be said about a guy that you look up at the end of the game. With Chris Paul on the floor and without Chris Paul on the floor, the numbers last night with James Harden, they basically, Houston said, we're taking the ball out of Harden's hands, we're putting it in Chris Paul's hands in the second half, and it was a different game. Now, I want to shift to this.
Okay.
We know, and I think LeBron knows, man, we don't match up with the Warriors. But I'm sitting there thinking last night, dang, 3 games left, 2 are in Houston. Cleveland kind of matches up a little. Listen, Clint Capella or Kevin Durant. I'm watching that game last night. I'm like, think about 5 reasons LeBron could beat the Rockets. Here, I'll throw them to you, Doug.
Okay.
Houston hadn't been in the finals. We don't trust D'Antoni late. Better matchup without Durant. Houston hasn't faced LeBron much. And the Cavs would have the best player in the series, hands down. Don't they match up with Houston better, Doug?
Yes, parts of them match up better with Houston because much like we've seen in this series, you're going to have to take Capella off the floor with Kevin Love playing the 5, which opens up the lane, as opposed to when the Warriors play small, they still have Kevin Durant who can still defend the rim even though they're playing small ball. And the Warriors have 3 prolific scorers. The difference is, I think the Warriors, the Rockets have too much overall offense for them, and I do think that Ariza has a quality matchup. They don't have the depth of P.J. Tucker and Ariza, and outside of that, good luck guarding LeBron. But I still think there's too many weapons there, and Chris Paul will dominate the backcourt of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But George Hill is long and physical. He's a
terrible defender. He's getting lit up by, look, they're playing in a JV league. They're playing in the Eastern Conference, which isn't as good. They're playing against the Celtics, who don't have their 2 best players. They're playing against a couple of rookies, 20-year-old kids, and Terry Rozier has been exposed as being a really good backup. Right? Marcus Smart can't make a shot and doesn't know he can't make a shot. Like, I love the Celtics, and maybe they win this series. Okay? But the idea that beating the Celtics twice at home is somewhere in line with beating the Rockets or beating the Warriors, like, this is a massive step up in weight class. We all know it, and it's made even more obvious when you sit down, take a breath, and go, Eastern Conference not as good. They avoided a couple of matchups which could have been problematic, like the Sixers or like the Wizards. And they're playing against the Celtics, who don't have their 2 best players. Outside of that, it's exactly like playing in the Western Conference.
Finally, Tom Brady, OTAs, skipping him. First time in his career. What do you make of it?
I don't think it in football, it doesn't matter football-wise. This is not going to affect the Patriots because they still are the best team in the AFC East. But if you want to tell me this is not a big deal, I'll challenge anybody with this simple stat. Every team is carrying at least 3 quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yes.
There are 32 teams in the NFL. By my math, that's 96 quarterbacks. 95 are at OTAs. The only one that's not is Tom Brady, who's never missed OTAs before. Now, do I think that the Malcolm Butler thing is part of it? Probably. Do I think that there's part of the fight with his trainer not being allowed on the premises to work with him? Probably. Do I think that it's Giselle saying, hey, he's not appreciated, he might have had concussions 2 years ago, I want him to spend more time, and he's trying to find work-life balance. He's like, do I really have to be there? It's the same offense, the same offensive coordinator. I don't need to be there, I'm fine. Probably. But he's pissed about something.
Yes.
And this is the only way to show that you're mad is to not show up at work. And so now I disagree with you with the whole statement. He hasn't said anything, but he's saying it with his actions, not his words, which anyone who's in a relationship knows is a much stronger way of making a statement.
His name is Doug Gottlieb. His show is After Mine on Fox Sports Radio. Great stuff. Even my crazy theory. back for Hour 2. Cliff Avril, the Seahawks, is joining us as well. Good football guy. Hour 2, LA next. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. It is great to have you here. Hour 2, we are live. The Herd sponsored by Firestone Complete Auto Care. Keeps your car running newer, keeps your car running longer. So, the first thing I do when a game ends, and this goes back to when I played, this is just the way I've always done. I go to the box score. You see coaches after a game. You ever seen a coach after a game? They're doing this. They're looking at the box score. Because you watch the game, and then you kind of want to go to the box score to see if there's anything you miss. Like last night, they showed Steve Kerr looking at the box score at half, and he was going, we got 10 turnovers. Hey, did you see that last night? They were literally showing Steve Kerr at half. They mic'd him up, and he was like, we got 10 turnovers. That's really the game. We're giving them too many free balls here. And so you can coach on the sidelines, but you do need some data at halftime. In the end, give me data. How many timeouts? What's going on? What's happening on the glass? Is what I'm seeing the truth? So when I went to the box score after the game, here's what jumped out to me. Field goal percentage, both teams shot 39%. Free throw percentage, both teams were over 85%. Three-point percentage, both teams 32, 33%. That's all even. Assists, even. Here's what wasn't. Blocks. Houston 9, Golden State 3. Blocks are about effort. P.J. Tucker had 15, 16 rebounds. He's 6'5". That jumped out to me in the box score. Here's the problem. This is why I wonder, can this be sustained? There's generally a rule I believe to be true. In life, you are what you repeatedly do. Let that sink in. In life, you are what you repeatedly do, not inconsistently do, not occasionally do. P.J. Tucker's not going to get 16 rebounds. The Houston Rockets are not going to get 9 blocks. There is a term in society, it is true, it has been studied by real doctors. It is called hysterical strength. It is a display of extreme strength by humans beyond their norm. You talk about when a mom, a dad, son trapped under a car, lifts it. You've heard about that. It's triggered during massive life-threatening situations. It's called hysterical strength. It is a real thing. Now, we did not see hysterical strength last night, but what we saw is something that I'm not sure can be sustained. We didn't know if Houston, we really didn't. You didn't unless you live in Houston. Could Houston take a punch? Are they one of those boxers? Can punch, great, glass chin. Kind of thought Houston was. But they sustained 2 shots last night. They fell behind 12-0, and then Steph Curry had 11 points in 90 seconds. Both on the road. They got clobbered, hit to the chin twice, and won the fight. Can that be sustained? When I looked at the box score, the numbers that jumped out to me were effort numbers. 9 blocks to 3. P.J. Tucker, 16 rebounds. Because when you think, let's play the word association game. When I say Houston Rockets, what are the 5 or 6 things you think of first? When I say Houston Rockets, the first thing I think of is 3-pointers. Second thing I think of, Daryl Morey, analytics. He's like the most analytically driven GM in the league. The third thing I think about is, Harden's beard, his step-back shot. Fourth thing I think about is Mike D'Antoni. He's got this system. It's a little soft. The fifth thing I think about is Chris Paul coming over to join Harden. The sixth thing I think about is the word ISO. They do ISO ball a lot. Okay. You know what I didn't list in that word association game? P.J. Tucker having that many rebounds. Houston playing that kind of defense. So I'm not sure if it can be sustained. You are in life what you repeatedly do. Dynasties don't generally play like that at home in the fourth. They don't. Here are, though, now, I don't want to overreact. I don't want to overreact by what we saw last night. Because, like I said, if I had a bad radio segment today, I would not sleep tonight and I'd work harder tomorrow. So generally what you see last night on TV, you're not going to duplicate it. You have these wild swings. Boston looks unbeatable at home, then Cleveland clobbers Boston twice in Cleveland. What do we get tonight? I don't know. Teams make changes. But here's 4 numbers that if you're the Golden State Warriors should concern you. Number 1, Houston has beaten Golden State 4 of the last 7 times they've played. That's not about a bad fourth quarter. They've beaten them 4 to 7 times. Secondly, they've beaten them twice at Oracle. Oracle is not a big issue for the Rockets. Third number that should scare them. There's 3 games left. 2 are in Houston. They have home court edge. Dynasties, they can win on the road. It's always harder. And number 4 is, in the 7 games they've played, this is scarier if you're the Warriors. Neither team's beaten the other back-to-back games. Here's the scores. I'll put them on the screen. And by the way, this is why I say, when I watched LeBron tonight against Boston, and let's say LeBron and the Cavaliers, I picked them in 6, beat Boston. Now, I've wavered because I can't figure out, I think these are 2 deeply flawed teams. But I will tell you, if LeBron wins tonight, and you look at those numbers I'm showing you, Houston now, 3 games, got to win 2, and 2 are at home. And they don't have a problem winning at Oracle. And Golden State's never beaten them back-to-back. That should worry Warrior fans. Steph Curry, sometimes not 100%. Clay banged his knee. Andre Iguodala, not 100%. Everybody's fine for Houston. Chances are James Harden's a lot better in Game 5 than he was last night in Game 4. When you watch the game tonight, I think LeBron knows I don't match up with Golden State. We don't have an answer for Kevin Durant. I can't guard Kevin Durant. LeBron knows that. They have things they don't have an answer for. But I think LeBron is energized watching that game last night and thinking to himself, I may get Houston. And I think Cleveland can play with Houston. There are 5 reasons I think LeBron thinks, oh, no. This is a winnable final. First of all, LeBron's been in a lot of these finals. This Houston group hasn't. It matters. Number 2 is Kerr, D'Antoni, Brad Stevens. Who's the 3rd best coach there? D'Antoni's the guy you'd rather face than Steve Kerr. Number 3 is, come on, man. Cleveland can't match up with Durant. Tristan Thompson's too slow. Kevin Love is too slow, and it's exhausting for LeBron. Number 4 is, Houston hasn't seen a ton of LeBron. Chris Paul hasn't faced him much. Trevor Ariza hasn't faced him much. Mike D'Antoni hasn't faced him much. That tsunami of LeBron, man, if you haven't faced it, it is a real thing. It takes you games to adjust to LeBron. Brad Stevens is having troubles adjusting to him. Brad Stevens has seen a ton of LeBron. Dwayne Casey's seen a ton of LeBron. And a lot of these coaches seen a ton of LeBron. They still can't figure him out. And number 5 is, if Cleveland plays Houston, I want you to think about this. Who's going to get the MVP? James Harden. It's going to be right in LeBron's face. Remember last time LeBron faced a guy? Derrick Rose, MVP. Hey, LeBron, you're not as good as Derrick Rose. Remember what LeBron did to Derrick Rose? The Cavs will have the best player in that series. And the best player in that series, LeBron James, has been told all year, it is outrageous to consider LeBron MVP over James Harden. Don't you think LeBron James would say, no, I got this. I'll guard James, 8 minutes to go. I'll guard James Harden. I want to make a point tonight. We know LeBron, when he is absolutely engaged, is easily the best player in the world. Now, are there moments, quarters, when LeBron against Toronto got this in the bag? Absolutely. I mean, there's no question. LeBron is human. You put him up against James Harden in a series, you are going to get relentless LeBron. They got a shot. Houston be favored. Houston should be favored. Houston got more good players. I'm not denying that. But matchup-wise, you put the starting 5s up between between the Cavaliers and the Houston Rockets. You put the starting 5s up. It is a lot closer than when you put up the Cavs starting 5 and the Warriors starting 5. I mean, there's some bad mismatches. And not a lot of bad mismatches. Chris Paul's better than George Hill, but George Hill is a lot longer, a lot bigger. Harden and J.R. Smith, okay, it's a mismatch, but so's LeBron and Trevor Ariza. Kevin Love's 4.5 inches taller than P.J. Tucker. He can score. Tristan Thompson, Clint Capella? Clint's better? Not by that much. Not by that much. I'm not counting Kyle Korver. He has moments. He catches fire. They have Eric Gordon. There are moments he catches fire. That series, Rockets-Cavs, Rockets should be favored, sounds way more competitive to me. Buy, sell, or hold around the corner. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of terms. Dealer price, list price, invoice. Don't be confused. TrueCar.com, new or used, save $3,000 off MSRP potentially. You know, a lot of people are saying to me, I went to my Twitter. It's on my phone here. It's called the iPhone. A lot of people saying, Colin, you're giving Steph Curry a pass. He was great for a while, but he also wasn't great to start the game, wasn't great to end the game. What about Steph Curry? Listen, here's the way I look at Steph Curry. He's one of the 10 best players in the world because he's the best ball handler in the world. He's the best shooter in the world. But he's not 6'11". He's not 6'8". He's not 250. He's a small athlete. He is a small athlete. It's like Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry. They're hurt a lot for a reason. I don't need Steph Curry to be everything. I need Steph Curry to be the best ball handler and the best shooter in the world who has high enough self-esteem that he can play with others. LeBron's 6'9", 250. I don't want to hear about him running out of gas. Steph Curry's a smaller athlete. And when you watch the Warriors in the last 2 years, even with Kevin Durant, when the team is at its best, they're running through Steph Curry. Even last night, with Steph on the floor and without. It ain't about Durant. You keep telling me Durant's better than LeBron James. Durant's not the most valuable player in his own team. Steph, last night, on the floor, they shoot 46% as a team. He's not on the floor, they shoot 21%. When he's on the floor, they shoot 40% from threes. When he's not, they shoot 14%. So with Steph Curry, here's what I know, and it's not disputable. When Golden State's funneling their offense through him, best team in the world, can't be beat. For the 5 minutes last night he was on, it was like it was a 17-4 run. It was outrageous. I don't expect him to be everything. It's not that I'm giving him a pass, but I understand he's a defensive liability. He plays his tail off. He's just a limited defender. Kyrie Irving doesn't play his tail off on defense. Harden doesn't play his tail off. And I'll give you an example. One of the reasons I love Steph Curry is everybody wants to play with Steph Curry. Everybody wants to play with Steph Curry. I had Kenyon Martin on yesterday, and he said, yeah, I know James Harden is great, but I wouldn't want to play with James Harden. Here was Kenyon yesterday.
You know, I like James as a person. Cool guy. Tough to play basketball with. Same with CP. It's the same kind of game. Dribble, dribble, dribble. Dribble, 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 dribble. Dribble, 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 dribble. Step back. Pick and roll. Dribble, dribble, dribble.
Yeah, it's like I don't need everybody to be everything. If you tell me, Colin, I got this basketball player. He's the best shooter in the world. Teammates love playing with him. When we run the offense through him, we're a significantly better team. And we got 4 Hall of Famers. And he's also the best ball handler. He can wear down the clock, wear out people. I'm good. I'll take it. Top 10 player all time. I do want more from the Greek Freak. Want more from Durant. Want more from LeBron. The man upstairs, DNA, God, whoever it is in the clouds, they gave him more. I know Steph is limited physically. I know he's small. He can't defend. He tries. He just can't. I know guys jump over him. I know guys can push him around. James Harden's thick. Russell Westbrook's ripped. Steph's not. So you just give me the shooting, the IQ, the self-esteem, the teammate, the coachability, the ball handling. I'm good. That's not giving him a pass. He's an imperfect body. But what he's capable of being great at, he's the best in the world at 2 things. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
So like we've been talking about all morning, the Rockets evened up the series 2-2 last night. So the Warriors had a chance to either tie or take the lead. They got the ball back, played good defense, got it back with 12 seconds left in the game. A lot of people are questioning why Steve Kerr didn't call a timeout. maybe draw up some kind of play, considering how they'd been struggling in the fourth quarter. It turns out he did try, but the refs weren't really paying attention to him. Here's what Kerr said.
I wanted the timeout. Draymond was trying to call one around 4 seconds once he got trapped, and at that point, the officials weren't looking, and they're not going to look down at our bench. So I saw Draymond trying to call it, and I was hoping they'd give it to us, but we didn't get it. But I'm always a proponent of pushing the ball off of a miss rather than taking a timeout, letting the defense get set up. So I thought we would get a better shot in transition. That's why I let him play.
For the record, on that final play, watch it right here. Why do we always blame the coach? I love Klay Thompson. But if you watch the play from a different angle than that camera, Klay Thompson had a wide open... Now watch this. Kevin Durant is wide open.
Yeah, wide open for the win.
Okay.
That's a 3.
Okay, that's a 3. It's a wide open 3. Stop always blaming the coach. The Warriors have smart veterans. They've been around the block. They've been in these long series and these long May and June playoff, wars. This is on the players.
Yeah, part of it was Kerr saw we have a fast break going for the win with 3 of the best shooters in the league. I'll take my chances.
Did you watch how good the Rockets' defense was last night on inbounds plays? Yeah. I mean, why? Here's one of my things. Belichick's a big believer in this. We are so well coached. We know where to go. We don't need to call a timeout. Belichick doesn't want to call a timeout and then give the opposing coach time to get organized. Belichick's theory is, we know what we're doing. We'll let you swim in chaos. Right there in that moment, Kevin Durant had a great shot. Out of a timeout, Kevin Durant would never have been that open.
No.
Absolutely no chance. He was, and I love Klay. He was open. Klay had his head down, didn't watch. They would never get that shot out of a timeout that they had right there available.
After Klay got hurt, it's not that he was limping or anything, but he didn't seem the same.
He wasn't the same.
He was out of it after that.
He wasn't.
On the other side of the ball, the Rockets, after their 41-point loss in Game 3, their head coach Mike D'Antoni called the team soft.
Yeah.
Well, last night, clearly not soft, played very tough basketball, and D'Antoni was actually quick to take back his comments. Here's what he said.
I thought this is the highest level we've ever played defensively, without a doubt, because you're talking about maybe the best offensive team ever. I regret it because I'm up here with a lot of adrenaline, and I was disappointed in our overall effort, offensive, defense. They're not soft. It's just we didn't play with the amount of force that you need. They're not soft, and they proved it. So I misspoke, and you guys miswrote it.
Okay, wait. So he calls them soft. They 100% respond and play tougher. Why would you take that back? That sounds like great coaching.
Yeah, no, they really did. I think he said it. Like, when you watch that, I put it on Twitter last night, about third quarter. I'm like, I don't know who's going to win this game. Houston's playing harder. I mean, they were scrambling for loose balls. You got to give Houston. I don't know if they can sustain it, but that was an amazing defensive effort last night from a team that's very offensively skilled.
And also, they're the only team that can't just beat. Every other team they play, the Rockets can win without trying harder.
Right.
The Warriors are the one team they can't do that with. And speaking of fight, the Rockets, 2 big uphill battles in last night's game. You had the run, as you mentioned, in the third, and also getting down 12-0 to start. But they fought back, took advantage of Golden State's bad shooting decisions.
Yeah.
After the game, James Harden explained Houston's fighting mindset during the game.
We've been doing it all year long. That's the main reason we're in this position we're in today. That third game was just one loss. We all know what that is, and we had the mentality that we were going to win Game 4. They made runs, of course they were going to, especially at home, and we just kept fighting, defensively kept locking in, making big time shots. Chris and Eric and Trevor, guys made big time shots in that fourth quarter.
You mentioned before that in the entire season, playoffs and regular season, these two, no one has beaten each other twice in a row.
Yeah. Well,
do you like the Warriors in Game 5?
Yeah, I do. I like the Warriors in Game 5. I still like the Warriors in the series, and I think the one I'm struggling with, because I do think dynasties beat very good teams. I'll take the Warriors. I don't know Boston-Cleveland tonight. I really don't know. I mean, literally, Boston was awful on the road, and Cleveland was awful on the road. I know I get LeBron, but even Vegas has the line at -1. They can't figure out tonight. I have no idea what I'm going to get tonight. That's why I can't wait to watch the Celtics and Cavs tonight. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
You know, it's rare we get a guy that's a football player and he's going into the media. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's been on a Super Bowl team. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, so I was a Seahawk fan growing up. And they brought him on a few years ago. He was in Detroit, and they weren't paying Russell Wilson any money, so they could get a Percy Harvin, they'd get a Cliff Avril. And they're like, yeah, we'll bring him on. And he was part of that Super Bowl team. And now it looks like, it sounds like he's going to do what we do, which is, just a dead-end job. But we want to bring him on anyway. Cliff Avril is joining us now in the Herd. Let's bring him on, the Super Bowl champ, the Pro Bowler, the third-round pick. So you decided to do radio in Seattle, which was my goal as a kid growing up. That's all I ever wanted to do. I wanted to be a sports radio host and a sports anchor in Seattle, and now you're doing that. Let me first talk about this. Pete Carroll was in USC, and I'm a USC guy, right? And yes, I know the culture of USC. But I will say this. Pete is very pro player. I mean, a lot of energy. I mean, he's like a 66-year-old guy going on 40.
Yeah.
Are there times, because I kind of feel it now, Cliff, that when the coach is rah-rah, and sometimes players are like, I've heard that song and dance for like 6 years. It does feel like all the stuff that was just so joyful, there's a little turn now in Seattle. Is it fair to me to say sometimes players are tuning out Pete now?
I would say so, a little bit. Me personally, I'm not going to lie, I never listened to Coach Carroll. I never needed him to kind of motivate me on game day or for practice. I understood it was a job. I understood what I needed to do. So I never really paid attention personally. Now, for other guys, I could see how, the message could get crossed a little bit, especially after like the Super Bowl run when guys started kind of questioning what our foundation was after that play.
It's very interesting. This is fascinating to me. So New England, Malcolm Butler gets benched, and Brady has never been the same. You guys lose a Super Bowl. Marshawn Lynch was unstoppable, and you throw the ball, and it's never felt the same in Seattle. And everybody denies it, Cliff. Oh, it's no big deal. I'm sorry, Cliff. It feels like that Malcolm Butler play changed the temperature in the room.
I would say so. When we were going through it, I didn't think so. I genuinely thought, hey, we're going to bounce back. But now that I look back at it, I think it kind of affected some of the guys. Again, our foundation at the time was to play great defense and run the ball. Run the mess out of the ball, play great defense.
That was your brand.
That was who we were. And then when we switched it up in one of the biggest games of the season, biggest games of our careers, guys took offense to that. And I think guys started doubting essentially what the model, what the foundation was.
When you look at Seattle, it's funny. I generally don't talk politics. I believe that people listen to my show to hear my sports opinions. A lot of sports radio people, they want to do politics. It's their business. This is just my show.
For sure.
I think people believe now, social media tells everybody, talk politics, it's great. I believe politics are hard. I think they're hard at the dinner table. I think they're hard at church.
Anybody, yeah.
Seattle kind of got a little political. Well, then all of a sudden I watch what happened in the offseason. Seattle just gave Michael Bennett away. Michael Bennett's a hell of a football player.
Great player.
I mean, there aren't many guys in the league that are that disruptive. He's a pretty political guy.
Yeah.
Is Seattle admitting with this, Cliff, it got a little loose?
I think they're thinking about that for sure. I mean, we were such a vocal team. We were allowed to say what we wanted, and I think that's what made us good too. Is allowing guys to be themselves and not necessarily being a militant type of team.
Yeah.
But I think with all the stuff going on with the NFL and how they're trying to brand themselves and different things like that, I think they're considering some of the vocal guys, and they're kind of straight.
Unless you're a
them.
great player.
Yeah, you have to be a great player in order for you to even be vocal, honestly, because you got to understand your job is on the line every time you speak on something, because these people don't necessarily want you talking about this stuff.
By the way, it's not the NBA or baseball where you get a 10-year deal.
No,
the bottom
and it's
line,
not guaranteed.
I mean, the Patriots could cut Brady today.
If they wanted
they'd
to.
owe him a lot of money. They'd have dead money. But I do feel like there's this theory now. Everybody's saying politics are easy. You should talk politics. And I'm like, all I know is when I got into this business, people said, don't talk religion, don't talk politics. It's too offensive.
Yeah.
And I felt like Seattle got somewhat political. Okay, so Tom Brady. Oh, I want to do one more Seattle question on this. Right. So ESPN came out with a huge article, and it was just banging on Russell Wilson. And I was like, whoa, time out. Now, I know Russell is a little square. Russell's one of my favorite players ever. And he may be not the coolest guy in the room.
He goes by the book.
He goes by the book.
Yeah.
He's a corporate guy.
Yeah.
He's going to side with the ownership. Can you be totally honest, Cliff? Does that turn off Seahawk players? Some
players for sure. I think some guys have issues, especially when you're in a room like our locker room. I think some guys had issues from the standpoint of him not sometimes getting treated the same as everybody else. But in all reality, no quarterback in the NFL gets treated like the other 52 guys. That's just what it is. They touch the ball every play. They run the team. Everything falls on them. So they're never going to get treated the same. So I think guys had an issue with that more so than being square or whatever you want to call it.
But what you're acknowledging, though, the article, because my concern was, listen, man, you don't see that article. You don't see that article on Drew Brees. You don't see that article on Peyton Manning. That article doesn't get out that there was a little bit of animosity in times at that locker room.
Yeah. I mean, but this goes on in anybody's locker room.
You think so?
Yeah, everybody. I mean, it's 53 guys, alpha males. Nobody's ever going to get along 100% of the time. Now, most of the times, everybody's getting along with the quarterback because he's the face. A lot of times, guys feel like they relate the message back to management and different things like that. Most times, you don't have those issues. But again, in our locker room with guys being so freely to speak, and
then Russell wasn't that way.
And Russell doesn't really.
He's
speak
very
much.
corporate.
I wouldn't say he's corporate, but he keeps to himself. He's not the guy that's gonna necessarily get in front of the team and have, he's always saying the right things. He's always gonna play everything by the book. But I wouldn't say he's corporate because if you get him one-on-one, you have great conversations with him.
All right. So Tom Brady's missing OTAs.
Don't put too much into that.
Let's talk about that. It didn't bother you?
No. Okay, I played the last 5 years. I've been to maybe 3 OTA practices, and I like to think I play at somewhat of a high level.
You were a Pro Bowler.
Yeah. So I don't put too much into OTAs. I mean, with quarterbacks, timing and all those different things might play a little factor. But he's Tom Brady. He can fly all those guys to Hawaii this summer and train with those guys for a month and a half straight, and everything would be clean. So I wouldn't put too much into that.
I want to talk about Brett Favre's story came out. Peter King's a football writer, wrote a story on Brett Favre. Brett Favre said 3 different times, I was basically in rehab during the season. I was in a pain pill buzz.
Yep.
And listen, I'm not expecting you guys to all be vegan and don't drink, but be honest with me.
Yeah.
Pro athletes are rock stars, and sometimes rock stars go on stage with a hangover and they perform. Now, long term, it's going to erode your career.
Yeah.
But be honest with me. In this world you live in, it is young men, and the women want them, and they're invited to every party.
They got a little bit of money.
They got a little bit of money. They got a lot of lettuce. Be honest, Cliff. When you hear a story about Brett Favre, does it shock you that he was in a pain pill buzz? This is a violent sport. Guys get hurt.
Especially in those days, no. I'm not surprised at all. Back in those days, they passed out pain pills like it was candy. And even my first couple years in the league, it was somewhat like that. But it's changed.
You've been in the league 10 years.
Yes, sir.
So your first year in the league, you get a pain pill anytime you want it.
For sure. Yeah, you can get a pain pill. They used to give guys the little shots before games. I think it's Toradol shots or whatever. They used to give guys those shots. Now it's regulated. It's extremely hard to get pain pills. It's extremely hard to get those shots. You have to there's a protocol to go through to get some of this stuff. So I'm not shocked to hear Brett talking about, he used to have to go through those things because I've heard other guys speak on this. But as of right now, it's a lot harder.
By the way, guys are retiring more early. Is some of it you guys make more money now, or is some of it I can't mask my injuries anymore? It's harder to play this game.
It's a little bit of both, I think. It's hard to play the game, depending on what team you're on. Losing is not fun. That weighs on you a lot. It can make life real stressful when you're losing as much as you are, like a Calvin Johnson or something like that. But also, I think the pain management is a little different now, and guys understanding what this game is doing to you as well. I think guys are a lot smarter. Guys are waking up to understanding, hey, these concussions are real. Hey, these injuries, your knees, and all these different things. Get your money and get out.
And finally, Cliff Avril, Seahawk, Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champ, 3rd rounder out of Purdue. That's why you're smart. They have a great engineering school there.
Yes, they do. My wife is actually an industrial engineer, so she's the winner out of the group.
Okay, there you go. Now, by the way, it's cold as hell out there. West Lafayette.
Oh, my gosh. It's ridiculous.
It is brutal.
The guy from Jacksonville going to West Lafayette. That was culture shock.
Oh, you were a Jacksonville kid?
I'm from Jacksonville, Florida.
What was that recruiting trip like? They bring you in June?
Yeah, I mean it was rough. Trust me, it was a culture shock.
Well, congratulations. Good luck on the radio stuff.
Thank you.
That's good for you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Your wife is a what engineer?
An industrial engineer.
And working in like Boeing or something up there?
She used to. She retired once I got like my second deal.
But she was up in like aviation and that.
She was working for Ford actually, the corporate ladder. I don't know.
Used to be a Lion.
Yeah, when we were Lions, she used to work for Ford. So I don't know the lingo. She used to talk to me about stuff. Got confused.
Hey, it's great meeting you.
Thanks. Great meeting you too.
All right, coming up next, buy, sell, and hold. Back after this. Welcome back. Dahntay Jones, LeBron teammate a year ago, joining us, top of the hour. Want to thank Cliff Avril, Doug Gottlieb, both good today. You know, the two things I'm watching last night, Golden State and Houston, the two things about LeBron that are amazing, when they write the book on LeBron, the two things, they better be chapters like 2 and 3. Number one, he never gets hurt. Klay Thompson gets banged up last night. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant hurt all the time. Kevin Love hurt all the time. Dwayne Wade, everybody, Westbrook, Harden. LeBron's never hurt. 17 years, never had a major injury. Outrageous. Once again, workhorse, 44 minutes, he'll play tonight. The second thing is, he's almost never invisible. I mean, listen, you're playing the best players in the world. Guys have bad shooting quarters. But last night, 3 different great players. James Harden was invisible in the second half, 6 points. 3 of 12 on three-pointers. He's going to win MVP. Kevin Durant, last year's MVP in the finals, was 9 for 24. Awful in the last 7 minutes of the game. Klay Thompson didn't have an assist. How is that possible as a guard with that roster? Those are 3 of the top 10 basketball players, in my opinion, in the world. James Harden disappeared in the second half. Kevin Durant disappeared with 8 minutes left. And Klay Thompson was pretty invisible the entire night. LeBron never gets hurt, and he is never invisible. Another amazing thing. He may not win tonight. He may not have a great night, but his presence is always felt. All right, I'm the stockbroker. It's time. You ask the questions. I tell you what to do with your money. Buy, sell, or hold.
Time to buy, sell, or hold.
I'd buy that for $1.
Colin will decide if he'll buy it, sell,
I want you to sell,
or hold.
Please hold.
Colin, buy, sell, or hold. Ezekiel Elliott will lead the league in rushing.
Well, I think most people think here's Ezekiel Elliott and here is Todd Gurley. It's going to be one of those two. Well, remember this. Zeke led the NFL in rushing yards per game last year, and he led the NFL in rushing, period, in 2016. But here's the secret sauce to this. The Cowboys have rushed 49% of their plays over the last 2 years in the NFL. People may not realize that. That's more than any other NFL team. Whereas the Rams have a much more aggressive head coach in Sean McVay and a much deeper and more talented receiving core in Los Angeles with the addition of Brandon Cooks, veteran Robert Woods, second-year player Cooper Kupp, and some really good young talented tight ends. The reality is Todd Gurley is really special, but with an aggressive head coach and an outstanding wide receiver and tight end core,
Buy!
Ezekiel Elliott will lead the NFL in rushing this year.
Sticking in Dallas, the Cowboys will win the NFC East.
Well, Eagles are the favorites to win the NFC East. Cowboys, by the way, in Vegas right now are second. So it's a good argument. Now, I want to point something out. The Cowboys are the most discussed team in the National Football League. But they've got 4 division titles in 20 years. Philadelphia dominated it with Andy Reid. And Philadelphia has a chance to dominate it again. Even with Chip Kelly, who got fired, they went 10-6, 10-6 first 2 years. I follow places like Pro Football Focus. And the thing I always look for, what is your quarterback grade, your offensive line grade, and your defensive line grade? The Philadelphia Eagles have the highest combined grade at quarterback, O-line, D-line. So, John,
sell.
I like the Cowboys a lot this year. This is Philadelphia's division. They are not only excellent, they're excellent in the right positions.
Buy, sell, or hold, Kevin Durant will win more championships than LeBron James.
Now, LeBron is 33 and Durant is 29. And right now, Durant has 1 title and LeBron James has 3. There's a couple of things that are interesting here. Last night kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Is Kevin Durant going to get past Houston? Series is tied, 3 games left, 2 in Houston. And by the way, these teams have played the last 7 times. Rockets have not only won 4, neither team has won back-to-back. Game 7's in Houston. This is the thing to remember, though. Both are free agents this summer. LeBron James, if he does not win this Boston series, to me, that's the impetus to join an exceptional team. So, John,
hold, please.
Put it on hold. Let's wait for the free agent summer.
So sticking with that, buy, sell, or hold, LeBron has won his last game as a Cavalier.
Well, they have won 7 straight home games, and they're going to face this really young and inconsistent Celtic team who couldn't beat Milwaukee on the road again in Cleveland. Regardless of tonight, it's going back to Cleveland. They're great at home, and Boston's bad on the road. And the Cavs are still favorites to win this series. Tonight's a coin flip. The Cavs, it should be noted, are also a favorite to sign LeBron. I have been told by people around LeBron that I trust that the feeling among LeBron's guys is there is no perfect situation in Cleveland or elsewhere.
Sell.
LeBron has not played or won his last game as a Cavalier.
Buy, sell, or hold, LeBron and Chris Paul will be teammates next season.
Again, last night and tonight make for very interesting narratives. Chris Paul was great last night. He was the best player for the Rockets on the floor. If Houston wins this series and gets to the finals, there is no way they're bringing LeBron aboard. It would look like title chasing for LeBron. It would be a bad look, and LeBron has stated previously, I don't like being a villain. He said that. Those were his words. I don't like being a villain. If LeBron goes to the Lakers or the Sixers that have never done anything, they're both in the middle of a process, it does feel like he will be the elevating source for championships if they're ever won. So, John?
Sell.
LeBron and Chris Paul. Chris Paul's not going to Cleveland, that I can assure you.
Well, one thing to add, Chris Paul also a free agent, so maybe they team up elsewhere.
Okay, so that's interesting. They can't team up, we know this. They're not going to team up in Houston if Houston beats Golden State. It's going to look like title chasing LeBron's a villain. They're not going to work in Philadelphia because then you got 3 guys that need the ball. The only place they would go would be to the Lakers. And Lonzo Ball is a pass-first point guard, and LeBron's going to be dominating the ball. I don't know how you get Chris Paul there. Chris Paul wants a lot of money. So I do not think they will team up. You know, Jason Whitlock said, this is a funny story. So the Patriots are having OTAs, and of the quarterbacks in the NFL, there's like 90 quarterbacks, right? Everybody carries 3 right now. 89 are going to OTAs, and Tom Brady's not. And people are saying it's not a story. But we were talking yesterday on Speak for Yourself about this. Let's say the Patriots don't have a great season, and they're 10-6, and they get to the playoffs and lose. People will start blaming people. Now, my theory on this is people in Boston will eventually side with Bill Belichick. And I believe there's 3 reasons for this. Number 1, fans aren't rational. Fans are highly emotional. And they often pick the side of people they can relate to. Bill Belichick is relatable. In Bill we trust. Do your job. Hoodie. Think of all the brands for Belichick. He wears a hoodie. He looks like a guy in the third deck. He's all about going, keeping your mouth quiet, doing your job. Beer, brat. Belichick likes to bet the horses. It's very relatable. Here's who's not relatable. The guy that won't drink a beer during the season, who's got a borderline vegan diet and a supermodel wife living in a castle. I believe in Bill We Trust wins. Jason Whitlock disagrees with me, and we'll have that last hour. Whitlock believes people will side with Brady and bail on Belichick. It's an interesting topic. We'll discuss it final hour. Plus, LeBron's teammate last year, Dahntay Jones, is joining us right around the corner. Good stuff today. We are rolling. Celtics Cavs tonight, baby. Wow. Good last night. Hour number 3. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, FS1. It's great to have you in. Hour number 3 live in Los Angeles. Tonight's huge. It's just tonight is huge. I have no idea. Like everybody always wants me, who's going tonight? I don't know. When the games were in Boston, not even close. When the games were in Cleveland, not even close. Dahntay Jones, LeBron's teammate last year, joins us in about 7-8 minutes. Celtics, Cavs, Game 5 tonight, tied at 2 in Boston. But Rockets shot Golden State last night. That series now tied. So I have to start with this. Dynasties are hard to beat, right? My theories when it comes to sports, dynasties beat very good teams. Michael Jordan's Bulls beat a very good Utah Jazz team, and a very good Gary Payton, Sean Kemp Sonics team, and a very good Blazer team. And they beat a lot of very good Knicks teams and Pacer teams. Dynasties beat very good teams. But last night it was different. The very good team beat the dynasty. And there's a way to beat dynasties. Doesn't matter the sport. Doesn't matter if it's football. Doesn't matter if it's soccer. Doesn't matter if it's basketball. Dynasties win a lot, and they win big a lot, and they're often comfortable. The way to beat a dynasty is make them uncomfortable, because they so rarely are. Being a dynasty is like being rich. You got a pool guy and a landscaper guy, and you got that guy driving you there and that guy driving you. A very comfortable life. That's what a dynasty is. Houston lost the previous game by 41, trailed 12-0 to start this one. They called a timeout. I don't know what happened in that huddle, but I know this for the next 2 hours. Houston played harder. Houston was angrier. Houston would not be denied. Houston was tougher. Houston was better on the glass. Houston was the better basketball team. Houston was the best basketball team in the world for the last 2 hours of that game last night. Stronger, tougher. There was a 4-minute blip when Steph Curry did what Steph Curry did. But even after that, Steph Curry, 11 points in 90 seconds, Oracle's exploding, the announcers going crazy. Even after all that, 3, you look up and you're like, oh, Houston's still in this thing. Chris Paul hits a 3, chipping away, down to 8. Now it's 7, now it's 5, now it's 3, Yes, Golden State did what Golden State does, especially in the third quarter. 3. Oracle, announcers, crazy. And you looked up and you're like, oh, they're not down 17. They're not down 24. They're down 9. Oh, Chris Paul they're down 7. Listen, man, this is what the New York Giants did to the New England Patriots 18-0 team. That team had 3 games where they were uncomfortable all year. One of them in Week 13 against Baltimore and Ray Lewis made Tom Brady uncomfortable, should have lost. Then in Week 17 in the Super Bowl, New York Giants did the same. Made Tom Brady uncomfortable. Took him out of his rhythm. Dynasties are usually in rhythm. They're more skilled. You got to make them uncomfortable. The Golden State Warriors are a high-performance sports car, and the Rockets took them off-roading last night. Took them up in the hills. Took them all over the bumps. Said, here we go. This is a wrestling match. Even inbounds plays. 16 turnovers for the Warriors. I mean, go look at that fourth quarter. 1 assist for Golden State. So frazzled they couldn't get the timeouts right. Where did Kevin Durant go? Took 2 awful shots. Steve Kerr probably should have called a timeout. They were confused. Even inbounds plays were totally disrupted. Now the question becomes, can Houston do this again? Can they play that hard? Can they play that tough? Can P.J. Tucker at 6'5" get 16 rebounds? Can Kevin Durant be that lost? Will Klay Thompson disappear? I don't know. I doubt it. But for 2 hours after that timeout down 12-0, the best basketball player team in the world was not the Golden State Warriors. Best basketball team in the world for 2 hours last night was Houston. And they did what you got to do to beat a dynasty. Take them off-road. Dynasties are more skilled. Dynasties are comfortable. They're like wealthy people. They got somebody doing this, very rarely uncomfortable. That was uncomfortable. I mean, Golden State was completely out of their comfort zone. You go look at the box score in the fourth quarter, oh my God. That's not because Golden State doesn't have 4 Hall of Famers. That is a team that is completely emotionally and physically out of sorts. Not sure they can do it again, but for 2 hours, best team in the world was the Houston Rockets. Let me segue to this. When you're the best at anything, there's a lot of pressure, right? If you're the best dentist in a town, people talk about you. Oh, you got to get your teeth done at Dr. Williams. That guy is the best. There is a pressure to being great. LeBron James plays tonight. There's a pressure for him to perform. Now, a lot of people argue, especially at this time of the year when Kevin Durant's scoring a bunch of points, well, he is every bit LeBron. Some say he's better than LeBron. But Kevin Durant never faces the pressure that LeBron James does. So last night, KD has the ball, down 2, 12 seconds left. Here we go for who many of you call the best player in the world. Let's roll the tape, please.
Durant moves it across. Final seconds. Here's Thompson for the tie, and that will do it.
Now, I know everyone's going to question Steve Kerr. Should he have called a timeout? They've been in this situation plenty of times. What could you possibly draw up when you've got Durant, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry on the floor?
Excuse me? Well, we're talking about Steve Kerr. That's funny because if LeBron James gave the ball up, would you be blaming Ty Lue or David Blatt or Mike Brown or Eric Spoelstra? The announcers. It's Steve Kerr. I mean, what is Steve Kerr doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. That coach who doesn't actually play anymore and is in his 40s, maybe 50s, it's his fault. Immediately, crickets about Kevin Durant, who had a 6'5" guy switch on him. Let me give you a couple of facts last night. Kevin Durant didn't make a shot in the final 7 minutes and 43 seconds. Kevin Durant didn't take a shot in the final 3 minutes and 47 seconds. You would be crushing LeBron. Everybody would be crushing him. The first thing the announcer said, well, it's Steve Kerr's fault. This morning, I go on the internet, Steve Kerr overrated. Steve Kerr, gotta call a timeout. I can't believe what Steve Kerr did. By the way, I'm looking at these game 4 with and without Steph Curry. Without Steph Curry, the Warriors were awful last night. Look at those numbers. Field goal percentage, 46% they shot with Steph Curry. Without him, 21%. You know who the most valuable guy on this team is, right? I'm not saying the best. You know who the most valuable is. We demand that LeBron not only be the best, that he coach on the floor, that he always has the right instincts, and that it's not about the coach, and that when he's on the floor, they have to be great. Nobody's talking about this. Look at the numbers last night. He didn't make a shot for the last almost 8 minutes. He didn't take a shot for the last almost 4 minutes. And we're talking about Steve Kerr. That is the pressure of being the best dentist in town, the best lawyer in town, the most respected teacher in town, the best NBA player, the best quarterback. We put everything on your shoulders. Everything is piled on your shoulders. Kevin Durant last night had a 6'5" guy switch on him. And 7-foot Kevin Durant, hey, Klay Thompson, you take it. I'm going to go over here and watch the rest of the game on my flat screen. What? Should be the lead story today. Or at least it would be the lead story of tonight. If tonight LeBron doesn't score in the last 7:43, does not take a shot in the last 3:47, and has a 6'5" player Let's say Jaylen Brown switch on him, trailing by 2, has the ball, 12 seconds left, and LeBron passes it off to Kyle Korver. We will destroy LeBron. I won't be able to talk about anything else. And this morning, crickets on Kevin Durant. The gap between the best player in the world, LeBron, and the second best player in the world, Kevin Durant, isn't all about basketball. It's about the expectations and the pressures we put on the king. And with that, a guy that played with LeBron James, Dahntay Jones, NBA champ in 2016. So I'm sitting there watching last night, Dahntay, and I'm like, what in God's name? It kind of just shows you, no matter how great you are in these playoffs, man, the refs let a lot go. And, I mean, to me, Houston was like, listen, we're going to kind of mug them. We're going to make this thing ugly, and the refs didn't call a ton.
That's what I was most impressed with about Houston, because they took that big third quarter from Golden State, and they're a big third quarter team. They took those punches. They stayed composed. They came out, saw a 10-point deficit, and they were like, you know what, we're going to work through it, and we're just going to capitalize off their mistakes. And they took it and persevered, and they won a gutsy game where they just were more physical than Golden State when it came to it.
Okay, so you've been in a series with Golden State. I've always said one of the reasons I like Draymond Green is on a team with a bunch of guys that feel like the Burbs and skinny jeans, he's the tough dude.
Right.
And I felt like last night, P.J. Tucker was a tough dude, and Clint Capella was a tough dude. And there was a lot of guys for Houston pushing them around. This Golden State team that you've played against, do you feel sometimes like you can push them around a little? They're more skilled than strong?
That's not their identity. Their identity is in their skill and their dominance in shooting the ball. When you're tougher, when you dictate the tempo on defense and how you're going to be more physical than they are, that's where you have a chance at beating them. And that's where Houston is being successful at. The games that they win, they've started the game, they're more physical, they're going to deny, they're going to push the pressure out, and it works for them when they can complete that for 48 minutes.
Do you think they can do it again?
That's the goal. You got to put 4 games of that out there. And I think they'll have a chance with their home crowd behind them to do it again. I think they found the recipe on how they're going to be successful. And it all lies on the defensive end. I think in both series, the most physical team is going to win both series.
So you, despite all these shooters, you think the tough team wins the series, the tougher, more physical team?
Yes, because in this round of the playoffs, that's what the whistle is being kind of swallowed in some respect.
No question.
In the last minute, you saw we get on people for not driving to the basket when it comes down to the last shot because you're not going to get a call. It's rare that a referee makes a call for a foul on the last shot of the game.
No, they don't want to be the story.
Right. They don't want to dictate how the game ends. So you see a lot of guys settling for jump shots because you know if you go into the paint, you're going to get mugged. And Houston was like, okay, this is how we're going to play it, and we're going to live and die by this, and it worked.
I thought that was as good a game as Chris Paul, Mike D'Antoni, and the Rockets have played in years. I thought
from a Mike D'Antoni team, you're absolutely correct because they're not known for defense and for physicality.
No,
and somewhere along the line, he's learned and figured it out that that's how he has to be better, and you got to give him kudos for that because he's found a defensive identity to go along with his offensive sets and offensive threats that has made him famous.
Were you shocked that Kevin Durant kind of wilted in the last 740? I mean, he had a couple bad shots. I mean, when you're watching that, what are your takeaway?
My takeaway was he had to be in a position to do something that he doesn't do, and that's be a playmaker. See, when you spread the floor and give him the ability to score and give him space, he's deadly. Like, he's probably the best doing it right now. But in that situation, he had to compute and make a play, make the right play. And the right play was for him to just rise and score over his guy.
Yeah, I thought
but he tried to do something that he's not great at necessarily. He's great at scoring the ball, but making plays, if you average 2 assists a game, like that's not what you do. You get them because you have the greatest shooters in basketball right now. You get those kind of on mistake.
Let me ask you this. You've been in these late game situations. Steve Kerr's getting heat today for not calling a timeout. But I'm going to tell you my belief on this is, Dahntay, not only is Golden State a veteran team, it's a bunch of smart dudes. Okay, if I have you on the floor, you're a dookie, and I got LeBron on the floor, and I got Kevin Love on the floor, my takeaway is I got a veteran team, I got a high-functioning team above the shoulders. I'm not calling a timeout. I don't want their defense to set.
Absolutely correct. You don't want them to set in any capacity so that, because there's so much technology right now, they know what your sets are. They know what you're probably going to go to. So if you give them a chance to set, it's really not going to necessarily where it's going to come down to just making a miraculous shot or something.
Watch this play at the end. Now, we'll show it again. Watch Kevin Durant. Look at that. Now watch how open right here Kevin Durant is. If you ran a timeout, you would never get Durant that open again. Like that was Klay Thompson just not seeing Durant. If you did a timeout, Houston's doubling Durant.
It was two shooters forced to make plays, and they're shot makers. And Kevin was open, but
wide open.
But you put Klay in a position where it was going to be a bad shot for him. He tried to get a shot off. The clock's running down, and then
it's frantic.
It just is what it is.
So that's why I wouldn't have called a timeout. So here we go. Cavs Celtics tonight. So you've been with LeBron. You know his mindset. Here we go. It's 2-2. It's at Boston. Vegas is like flip of the coin. What is going through right now? LeBron's probably done a shoot around in the morning. Let's see. So it's 2 o'clock. He's already done a shoot around. He's gone back. He's had a little lunch, had a little rest. What's going through LeBron's mind on the bust of the game tonight?
I have to take that defensive challenge that I have been in our wins. And the wins have lied not with LeBron scoring. It's been his effort on the defensive end in rotating and being there for his teammates and doing all the little things which permeate through their roster, and guys are held accountable after that. Because if he's doing it, then you have to do it. And when they see him doing it, they make sure they're right along with them. I think sometimes a little slippage when he's not there. So he's taken on that challenge to be there on that defensive side of the basketball. And when that happens, they really can't be beat.
Yeah, Kyle Korver had a great defensive game the other night. He did.
But you see everybody rotating there for themselves. Like, that's the team that was there for the Raptors series where they dominated the Raptors. The closeouts were amazing. The weak side rotations where everybody was in sync. There was no open layups and people looking at each other and pointing. That wasn't there. They were in sync defensively, and they've shown that when that happens, like they're a monster.
Let me tell you, Brad Stevens has gotten a lot of love, and he's had a great year. I think he and Quinn Snyder had a really good years. That's not to say Dwayne Casey isn't a good coach or Ty Lue.
But that shows you what they are.
Okay, so is Ty Lue underrated?
Ty Lue is underrated because Ty Lue right now, he's not getting the credit that he deserves because he's out coaching Brad Stevens.
You think so?
It's right there in front of you because some coaches are great regular season coaches.
For a long time, that was D'Antoni.
Right. D'Antoni at the F for a long time. Brad Stevens right now, he's elite as a regular season coach. Quinn Snyder. But some coaches are better for the postseason.
Why?
And that's what Ty Lue is.
Why?
Because he has to prepare for the postseason. He knows that's his time to shine. He's great with adjustments. He's great with figuring out other teams and dissecting them for a 7-game series. Some coaches, like players, have things that they do better. And this is his time. This is his time when he's at best. He's one of the best right now at that, at adjusting and finding a way to beat a team in a series rather than just trying to win a game. Because games are won and lost in the regular seasons on a day's notice. But it takes real studying, real observation of strengths and weaknesses, how you can present your team in the best capacity and what strategies can help you win. Those are done in the playoffs. And that's where he exceeds, and that's where he is out-coaching.
How coachable is LeBron in games like tonight?
That's what makes him great. His ability to take his weaknesses and what he doesn't do well, digest them, and come back and be better. And not and I say digest because you can take it, say, you know what? Okay, I wasn't doing that right. He's not as arrogant as one may think he is to be like, you know what, I'm doing everything out here and how could you even say something to me? No, he digests everything every bit of information that you give him. And his strengths and weaknesses, and he puts that together to put a performance out there to be better. He's always trying to be better, and that's where he's going to just keep rising on these charts because he's always trying to be the best version of himself.
So you think they win tonight?
I think they do. I think they found out how they can be successful, and it's on the defensive end. And once they take care of that, then you get the performances from JR because JR is doing a great job right now with his individual matchup and then just being attentive all game defensively. Kevin Love is there defensively. Kyle Korver is doing his job. And then the energy from Tristan is underrated because Tristan has resurfaced a better version of himself. He's in shape. He's locking Al Horford up. On the switches, the guards can't score on him. Like, they're defensively putting together a masterpiece from a team that wasn't that great defensively during the season. Right now, they're excelling.
It felt like Cleveland couldn't figure out Al Horford the first 2 games. That's what it felt like to me. And then Ty Lue said, okay, we're going to move Tristan Thompson in here.
I got something for Al Horford, yeah.
And it's totally changed. I felt the first 2 games, I'm like, Al Horford's doing whatever he wants. So Al Horford's dominant.
It's a chess game. Postseason is chess games. Pushing pieces. I'm going to give you my first game. I'm not going to give you everything I have. Second game, I'm making an adjustment, and then I'm going to find out how I'm going to win. And that's what Brad's not doing. Brad's running his same sets that he was in the regular season right now. Jason Tatum, who's a stud on the offensive end, he can't get an open look.
He can't.
Because you're still running the same plays, and I have things that I could have used on you during the regular season that I'm choosing to use right now, and I'm making it tough for him. And Brad is just like, okay, just run it harder. Run the set harder. No, Brad, you have to take your offensive set and get him an open shot. He has one play that they run. One for him. If you watch the game, he gets one opportunity, a pin down at the free throw line, and they tell him to go to work. Okay, if we know that one play, we can stop that one play. And his ability sometimes helps him get over it and score, but he's not going to score on a consistent basis because you have some great defenders. You have a great coach over there that's throwing different schemes at him, and he's young, so he's not able to compute all this stuff right now. In a year's time, he'll be better. But right now, Brad is not helping him, not putting him in situations where he can score enough.
Good seeing you, Dahntay.
Always a pleasure.
Good stuff. Car shopping, confusing, dealer price, list price. What does it all mean? Go to TrueCar.com, new or used. A more confident car buying experience. My Tommy John t-shirt is showing this morning. Is that appropriate for television? Tommy John's a fine brand. So Whitlock and I got into this yesterday. Brady's the only quarterback in the NFL missing the OTAs. I don't think it's the end of the world. And the comparison I gave yesterday, it's like Facebook or Uber. They've had bad PR for multiple years, but it doesn't matter. When your lead is that big in your industry, you can overcome bad press. You know, this is sort of a headache for the Patriots, but look at their division. The Jets are going to start a rookie, maybe. Bills are going to start a rookie, probably. Miami's always in chaos, not dependable. You start looking at the numbers with New England. They are so dominant, so far ahead of the curve. It doesn't matter if they whiff on a first-round pick. It doesn't matter if they whiff on a trade. I mean, they gave Chandler Jones away, and they haven't had a pass rush yet. What's it matter? They've been to 2 Super Bowls, 1-1. It just doesn't matter. So I don't think Tom Brady not going to the OTA matters, but I do think if they struggle, fans will relate more to Belichick because Belichick's a hoodie guy, do your job guy. There's more of a working class appeal to Belichick than there is Brady, who's got a supermodel wife. Jason Whitlock, speak for yourself, disagrees with me.
Whitlock, could this hurt Brady's rep?
Hell no. No. The guy's won 5 Super Bowls. If they got a choice between Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, who just blew the Super Bowl with his Malcolm Butler decision, they're going to turn on Belichick. They're going to sit there and go, okay, Brady did everything by the book, took less money, and Bill Belichick did one of the most crazy, deceitful, unexplained things in the history of the Super Bowl, wouldn't play Malcolm Butler, and Brady got mad about it. I don't blame him. Garoppolo's making more money than Brady, and Brady's the MVP of the league. Brady's side of the argument is so easy to understand.
But that is a logical argument. I go back to fans aren't logical. They're emotional. And when people are emotional about their kids, about their local politician, about their team, it doesn't matter. I mean, I can put things on my Twitter feed that are statistically true. You don't read them. You don't even read the articles anymore. You just see the headline. You get all lathered up. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows LeBron's the best player in the world. There are people, he'll score 44, you'll complain that he had 2 turnovers. People aren't logical. They go to what's relatable and what they like. And I think Belichick, if this team goes sideways, is more relatable. The hoodie, he eats burgers and drinks beers like you. You know what I mean? He likes to go golf. He doesn't really love the cold weather, but he's stuck in Boston. Do your job. That's his mantra. I think the vegan doesn't drink a beer, supermodel wife wants more money is not as relatable. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Colin, the 2017-18 NBA All-Rookie team came out yesterday.
Oh, it did.
Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell, the 2 unanimous selections.
Yes, both unanimous. Totally agree. Simmons point, Donovan Mitchell 2.
Sure. Jason Tatum, not unanimous. One person didn't vote for him. whoever that is should obviously never vote on anything again, including elections, because I don't know who's the better rookie small forward, but I'm pretty sure there isn't one than Jason Tatum. Also, Kyle Kuzma and the Bulls' Lauri Markkanen were the other two guys.
Markkanen was a really interesting player out of Arizona. He can shoot. Big guy who can shoot.
Sure. And actually, Kyle Kuzma, this is what he predicted. He put his goal for the season 8 months ago as all-rookie team. So pretty impressive. Late first-round pick making the all-rookie team does not happen all that often, so good for him.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this has to be one of the best rookie classes I can remember. 3 of those 5 guys I named won playoff series and were key offensive personnel for their team, right? Not role players.
Jason Tatum will always probably average more than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is the best player of that group, and they're all really good, but Ben Simmons is a 6'10" point, the best defensive point guard statistically in the league. The Sixers were better at 19 offensive and defensive statistics when he was on the floor. I don't care that he can't shoot. He's going to attract shooters. Ben Simmons is the best rookie at that position I've seen since Magic. His DNA, 20-year-old kids aren't that big, aren't that long, aren't that strong, aren't that good at finishing at the rim, and don't have that vision. He's an all-timer.
And Donovan Mitchell was the best player for the Jazz.
Donovan Mitchell's a small number 2 who's a very good finisher, but he's a smaller athlete. You know my rule on this. Go with a bigger athlete.
Sure. Deshaun Watson is back practicing for the Houston Texans as the team with the team's OTAs.
Oh, good.
He's recovering from a torn ACL he suffered last November.
Cool.
When asked about how his knee felt after yesterday's practice, Watson said this.
My knee feels well, comfortable to be able to go out there and throw and do some things on there and get the timing down with the receivers. One of these days to actually get back out here with the group, with the team, with the whole offense, and being able to just get back to the basics of football and, build that chemistry and just build that leadership and that trust within each other.
Yeah, he has a chance to be really. I really bristle at the Lamar Jackson is Deshaun Watson. Timeout. No, he's not. Lamar Jackson didn't face Nick Saban twice, and Saban had 6 weeks to prepare both times, and Deshaun Watson ate Nick Saban alive. Johnny Manziel beat Saban once after Alabama had played 2 brutal games, came home and lost. Saban had 6 weeks twice to prepare for Deshaun Watson and ate him alive. Lamar Jackson may play. Lamar's fine. This kid, Deshaun Watson, but if he can stay healthy, because he has 2 ACLs.
That's a big if.
Yeah.
That's the
but
problem.
Let me tell you something. He is size, strength, pocket, throwing. He is special.
And finally, Carson Wentz, speaking of returning from injury, made his return to practice field yesterday. He is not officially participating in OTAs because he's still recovering, but he's there. He's taking things slow. He's listening to doctors. And a report came out yesterday that was kind of interesting. The Browns apparently offered the Eagles the 35th overall pick in the draft, so they're one of the top picks in the second round, for Nick Foles. But the Eagles declined. After they declined, that's when the Browns said, okay, let's go trade for Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
So does that tell you the Eagles think Wentz might not be ready, or do they just have such a high opinion of Foles they don't think he's worth a top second-round pick?
I think probably both of those. And the other thing is they probably went and talked to Nick Foles, and Nick Foles said, I'd rather back up here than start for Cleveland, and I totally get that. Nick Foles is not driven by money. Nick Foles' father started a restaurant chain and sold it for about $60 million, I read. This kid's not in it for the money. That's a story I read, I hope it's true. This Nick Foles kid is not about money. He wants comfort. He likes being on a winning team. He's now a hero in Philadelphia. I would not give that up just to be a starter on a dysfunctional franchise.
I was reading about his contract. Basically, he gets a ton of money if he plays. So if Wentz is still hurt or gets hurt again, he gets paid a ton. If not, he gets paid a few $1 million to back up and be on the championship team and still be a hero in Philly. It's not a bad gig.
Not a bad gig at all. Veteran newsman John Goulet.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
I got to tell you, when I watched last night Houston shock Golden State and even the series, 3 games left, 2 in Houston, my takeaway was, you mean LeBron could actually beat Boston and then face Houston? And I actually think Golden State's a nightmare matchup for Cleveland and LeBron. They have no answer for Durant. You can't have LeBron chasing him around the floor. But I actually think I could say 5 things where Cleveland has an advantage over Houston. Houston lacks finals experience. We don't really trust D'Antoni, do we? Better matchup without Durant, Cleveland's got no answer for him. Houston hasn't faced LeBron that much. Until you face that tsunami, it's hard to figure out how to surf it. And the Cavs will have the best player hands down if they face the Rockets. And oh, by the way, Harden's going to get MVP. LeBron is going to be second to Harden. You don't think LeBron would like that, going up in the finals against the guy to prove to the world, I'm still the king? Look at the lineups right now. Rockets, Cavs. Yeah, James Harden's a nightmare for J.R. Smith. LeBron's a nightmare for Trevor Ariza. Both teams have a guy off the bench, Kyle Korver, Cavs, Eric Gordon, Rockets, who can hit a 3. Now, I think it's a very interesting series. Now, I do think Houston should be favored. Doug Gottlieb earlier today disagreed with me that the Cavs can match up well against the Rockets potentially in the finals.
Parts of them match up better with Houston because, much like we've seen in this series, you're going to have to take Capella off the floor with Kevin Love playing the 5, which opens up the lane, as opposed to when the Warriors play small, they still have Kevin Durant, who can still defend the rim, even though they're playing small ball. And the Warriors have 3 prolific scorers. The difference is, I think the the Rockets have too much overall offense for them, and I do think that Ariza has a quality matchup. They don't have the depth of PJ Tucker and Ariza, and outside of that, good luck guarding LeBron. But I still think there's too many weapons there, and Chris Paul will dominate the backcourt of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But George Hill is long and physical. He's a
terrible defender. He's getting lit up by, look, they're playing in a JV league. They're playing in the Eastern Conference, which isn't as good. They're playing against the Celtics, who don't have their 2 best players. They're playing against a couple of rookies, 20-year-old kids, and Terry Rozier has been exposed as being a really good backup. Right? Marcus Smart can't make a shot and doesn't know he can't make a shot. Like, I love the Celtics, and maybe they win this series. Okay? But the idea that beating the Celtics twice at home is somewhere in line with beating the Rockets or beating the Warriors, like, this is a massive step up in weight class. We all know it, and it's made even more obvious when you sit down, take a breath, and go, Eastern Conference not as good. They avoided a couple of matchups which could have been problematic, like the Sixers or like the Wizards. And they're playing against the Celtics, who don't have their 2 best players. Outside of that, it's exactly like playing in the Western Conference.
All right, we are seeing something in the NFL that we have never seen before, and frankly, it is about time. That's next in Best for Last. Well, there is a trend happening in the NFL, and it's about damn time. Quarterbacks having a say, pushing back. For years, we've seen marginal NBA players hold their team hostage. Quarterbacks in line, company guy, carry the water. That's where we begin our Best for Last.
After almost 3 hours, Colin apparently hasn't gotten to the point yet. Quit holding out on us, cowherd. It's the Best for Last.
So in recent months, it started with Aaron Rodgers, who went on one of my favorite radio stations, 102.9 The Hog in Milwaukee, Milwaukee's best rock, and took a shot at the front office for not giving him a heads up on Jordy Nelson leaving the team.
Draft night, where are you going to be?
I don't know. I couldn't even tell you when the draft is.
You're not going to be perched on Mike McCarthy's right shoulder, helping him or telling him who you need on your side of the ball this year?
I think it's pretty clear that players play and coaches coach and personnel people make their decision. That's the way they want it.
I applauded that. Aaron Rodgers is amazing. He has a right to an opinion. Then it was followed by Big Ben of the Steelers. He'll be a Hall of Famer, too, after the Steelers drafted in the 3rd round a quarterback with their defense needing all sorts of help. Here's Big Ben.
I was surprised when they took a quarterback because I thought that maybe in the 3rd round, you can get some really good football players that can help this team now. And nothing against Mason. I think he's a great football player. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he's a great kid. I just don't know how being the 3rd round, who knows where he's going to fall in the depth chart, but helps us win now. But, that's not my decision to make. But I was a little surprised.
You did see the Steelers incapable twice last year of stopping Blake Bortles. Big Ben has a point. Leaders should talk. And then there's Tom Brady right after that with Jim Gray at some symposium, big deal in California, saying this.
Do you feel appreciated by them, and do they have the appropriate gratitude for what you have achieved?
I plead the fifth. Look, man, that is a tough question. Yeah, I mean,
your wife seems to indicate.
Yeah. I think everybody in general wants to be appreciated more at work.
Are you happy?
I have my moments.
Vocal, publicly questioning the Packer front office, the Steeler front office, Bill Belichick. So why would these guys all be complaining now? Well, let's look at Brady, Big Ben, and Aaron Rodgers. Brady threw for 505 yards in the Super Bowl. That wasn't enough. Coaching decision hurt his quest for a sixth title. Big Ben threw for 5 TDs, 470 yards in the AFC divisional round. Pittsburgh's defense couldn't make a stop. Aaron Rodgers, the Packers' pass offense, when he got injured, was last in the NFL without him. Quarterbacks are now more important than ever, and let me throw some stats up. Here's the number of different quarterbacks with all the rule changes that had 4,000-yard passing seasons between 1997 and 1998. 2, Brett Favre, Steve Young. That was it. In the entire league. 90s, late 90s. That was it. Now between 2016 and 2017, here's the quarterbacks who did that. Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, an old Carson Palmer, stoic and inaccurate Joe Flacco, the puppy Andrew Luck, mechanically flawed Matthew Stafford, although he's better now. Kirk Cousins, who we didn't even like back then. Russell Wilson, who you call a runner, not a thrower. Teams are becoming more quarterback dependent, therefore, quarterbacks should have a bigger say. Just like the IT guy in the office. Used to be you called on him when the printer broke. Now the IT guy in the office, he's dealing with servers, and they haven't even have printers anymore. They got video conferencing, they got emails, so when the IT guy squawks, give him a day off. The reality is there is a reason Aaron Rodgers is complaining. They were junk without him. There's a reason Big Ben's complaining. Blake Bortles twice, one season, up and down the field. There's a reason Tom Brady's complaining. It used to be if you threw for over 500 yards, you won the Super Bowl going away. The favorite trend in the NFL that I really like is superstar quarterbacks pushing back. Andrew Luck, stop it. Stop telling me Ryan Grigson and Bruce Arians are at your level. They're not. They're both fired now. Stop it. Leaders talk. I don't want to hear about lead by example. You're a quarterback. You call signals. You're verbal. Talk. You know, I also, with Russell Wilson, I love Russell Wilson, but don't be too company. Don't be too corporate. They traded away Max Unger, got you a finesse tight end. Your offensive line's never been the same. Quarterbacks have every right, especially Rodgers, Ben, and Brady, to push back. Legacies are on the line. Brady's taken less money. For that record, so has Aaron Rodgers. And Big Ben has had to carry this franchise for several years because Tomlin appears to get worked by Belichick in late game situations every time they play. I got to give. Can I give one shout out today? Is that the kid saying the shout out? I got to give a shout out. Not only was Aaron Rodgers on a radio station, he was on America's best radio station. 102.9 The Hog, Milwaukee's best rock. Yeah.
Another day warrior, mean guy. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean guy.
Listen, when you're in Milwaukee and you're driving around, which I'm prone to do, every time I'm in Milwaukee in my car, my Sentra. I go down the radio dial. You know where I go to? I go to 102.9, The Hog. Okay? So if you're in Milwaukee, patronize their sponsors, because it doesn't get any better than a Pabst Blue Ribbon and 102.9, The Hog. I love finishing shows like that. So strong. I feel so empowered. See, I grew up as a kid in Seattle. Can I tell you a story? Take 30 seconds. We'll be done with the show. So I was a kid in Seattle. I grew up on the beach. And, I grew up 2 hours from radio stations. And I used to listen to the Seattle Mariners. This is why I became a radio guy on AM radio. And I loved AM radio. I'd fish around on AM radio. And there was one FM station I couldn't really get. So whenever we drove closer to Seattle, it was KISW, Seattle's best rock. And I wanted to be a rock DJ. And I loved AC/DC, and I loved Van Halen. So I always wanted to be a rock DJ. And I just didn't have the knowledge or the voice, and I didn't wear leather jackets, and I didn't have a heroin addiction, so it just didn't work. But I privately have always wanted to be a rock and roll. I always wanted to work at 102.9, The Hog. You have no idea. My whole life I wanted to be an FM DJ. God. I wanted to be hooked on, something, wearing a leather jacket, dark glasses. Man, I could have been something.